The Wisconsin Badgers, 4-3 last season, wild season, right? Come out Friday night, first Big Ten game. Graham Mertz is cooking. I mean, we're looking to pass. We're slinging it around. Holy cow, what's going on here? And then Graham Mertz tests positive for COVID-19. And then we got to put the program on pause. I mean, when we talk about programs that were disjointed in the season and dealing with player availability issues, in the Big Ten, we seem to see some of our most dramatic instances of that, particularly as they tried to play 9 games in 9 weeks with no room for any kind of rescheduling. Well, that 3-3 Big Ten schedule for Wisconsin certainly was a big part of it. Now, from that group, they bring back 15 starters, 7 on offense, 8 on defense, and Graham Mertz is the story of the offense, right? Like we feel like if Paul Chryst, former Wisconsin offensive coordinator, Joe Rudolph, the quarterback's coach and offensive coordinator, that when they put that out there on display in the opener, it's almost like this is what we would like to do. This is, when we've got a player with the tools, this is something that we would like to flex to really be able to bring some balance, not just as a ground and pound offense. Defensively, I think that you can't say losing Isaiah Loudermilk doesn't matter, or, Garrett Rand. Like these are good players. These are really good players, but I kind of feel like we've got some of this same like program checklist kind of development where, because you've proven it year after year, you bring back a lot of starters, you've got great coaching, and the program development's been there. I kind of think that defensively they're going to be up. Like Danny, you say it's Wisconsin's year, so I guess like let me hear it. What's exciting you? What are the questions that you really want to have answered? I guess I need to offer a question. I'd like to see. I think offensive line, they've got some reworking that they need to do up there, but that's not anything huge. Again, program kind of feels like I'll give them a check mark on that.
I totally agree. I think with the way the defense has improved under Leonard on the defensive side of the ball has been phenomenal. I think they fly around. I think they're physical. I think they're a physical attacking style of defense. And I think the offense, clearly we got ahead of our skis a little bit with the opening performance this past season between Graham Mertz. And I remember saying on this podcast, that was the most athletic playmaker, difference maker at quarterback we've seen since Russell Wilson was there. And while it was a little bit hot takey, maybe a little bit too early of a knee-jerk reaction, it still does look like, from the glimpses you saw from him, that it could be that still. And he's still young. And the season was a little bit up and down. I was getting a little bit worried about maturity of Graham Mertz. It's a little bit of the Baker Mayfield kind of cockiness come out, which you don't expect out of a Wisconsin quarterback either. But that can be a good thing as long as you kind of toe that line the right spot.
I mean, he's from Overland Park, Kansas. He got it from Dennis Dodd, right? I mean, he got it. He got it from the Prince of Overland Park.
Do you think he emails like Dennis? Guy, right? They're the off-season workout buddies.
Oh, I almost got the spit take out of Tom.
Mertz.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry, Danny. My bad.
No. But I think this is the team to beat. From this side,
this is a Wisconsin year. I'm going into the spring convinced. When we get to the fall and we're making our predictions, I'm going to be picking Wisconsin. Nothing's going to be getting me off of Wisconsin, because I think that 2020 was a Wisconsin year, and I think that Wisconsin's season got completely upended by COVID. And I don't think Graham Mertz was the kid we saw in the Illinois game. But I think he's closer to that than the kid who struggled in other games. I think he's closer to being one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten than he is just being your average Wisconsin quarterback. The kid's got a ton of talent. And I think that having a full offseason of spring and all that stuff, getting ready for a season, will help there. I do think that my concern with the Wisconsin offense is the receiver position, because I just don't know how many truly game changers they have at that spot. I think Jake Ferguson is nice at tight end, and I think he's a matchup problem for a lot of defenses, and I think that's a good thing for them to have up the seams. But I'd like to see a big play receiver emerge from the outside, somebody they could take advantage of with Mertz's arm, because he has that kind of arm to be able to do it. Offensively, their offensive line wasn't good last year, not for Wisconsin offensive line. And I don't know if that was just the talent wise or if it was just, again, COVID completely turning things on its head. I'm leaning towards COVID, but even so, like Chip, you mentioned you were concerned about the offensive line, but you're not worried about the development. They don't have to do as much developing these days. I don't know if you've seen Wisconsin's latest recruiting class for the 2020 class.
But they're all 6'5", 320.
Yeah, but I'm saying they've got Nolan Rucci, a 5-star offensive tackle, the number 15 player in the class. They've got JP Penn Schawel, another 4-star offensive tackle. Riley Mahlman, another 4-star offensive tackle. They've got TJ Bowlers coming in, a 4-star defensive end. Wisconsin has really I think that is the one thing that Paul Chryst has changed since he took over the program and has made it his. And I think obviously Wisconsin's sustained success has played a role in it too. But, during the Alvarez Bielema era, they were getting 4-stars, but then they were still, it was mostly culture, program, develop. Paul Chryst is kind of stepping it up. They're bringing in higher rated guys. Like if you go up and down their roster, I mean, there's not as many 5-stars as you're going to find in an SEC team, but there are some, and that wasn't always the case. But there are a lot more 4-star recruits you're seeing populating their roster than you typically used to seeing from Wisconsin. So the ceiling is improving. And when you look around the West and you look at the way Wisconsin is recruiting compared to the rest of the division, it's not like an Ohio State situation in the East. But I could see a gap kind of starting to form between the Badgers and the rest of the division. And I look at this roster that they have going into 2021, and I look at the talent that they have at the quarterback position. And I think this is going to be a really good Wisconsin team. If they win fewer than 10 games, I'll be shocked.
Okay. Wisconsin, like this is way early to do this, but let's fill out the bet sheet. Does anybody want to take Wisconsin over the rest of the division? Are they odds on to you guys?
Yes.
I think it's clear. Don't you think Vegas would have the same too?
I'll take the rest of the division.
Right.
Oh, you're saying the field. I got you.
Yeah, I'll take the field over Wisconsin. I think it's a tremendous compliment that we're even considering it. Right? I mean, that's like a level of respect that's given to Ohio State, basically.
I mean, that's kind of how, like I said, it's just when you look at the talent gap, because I think the talent gap between them is widening between everybody else in the division. Like Iowa had a good recruiting class. It was a top 25 class in 2021, but Wisconsin's in the top 15. And that's typically where we see Penn State, Michigan, and Ohio State living, not Wisconsin. Wisconsin has tended to always be like the mid-20s, upper 30s kind of national recruiting class. And they've really kind of, I think, taken a step forward in recent years. And I think the rest of the division has kind of taken a slight step backward in some key spots. So like Nebraska is not recruiting like Nebraska typically did, although they're still recruiting pretty well. But I just don't see 2021 being a year like when you can combine that with what we talked about with Northwestern, with everybody that they've lost, and the questions at Iowa. I don't see, like, things could go wrong and they could lose a division. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I will take that. I take that bet, Wisconsin over the field. But I don't see a whole lot of scenarios in which the Badgers screw up enough to not win the division, unless they are just completely beset by injuries or a new strand of COVID that we don't know about yet.
It's good. And their best 2 recruiting classes in the program's history are the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So like to your point, like there's been a noticeable uptick. I don't have a whole lot of questions about this team. I mean, I'll take the field, and I'll take the chaos against Tom. Danny, I assume you want in on that too.
Yeah, I'll take that.
All right, we'll put that on the sheet. Chip, you in on that?
Nah.
Okay, not going 3 wide here. I have a little bit of concern about something Tom said, which the playmakers just didn't look special to me, right? And Wisconsin's usually pretty good at spraying guys in space. Last year they weren't quite as good at getting these guys, that open. And when they didn't get them that open, these guys they didn't get you anything extra. There was nothing special about them, right? And usually they have at least one dude who could make somebody miss or make somebody, just make a big play. Last year they really struggled, in that area. Defensively, I really only worry about corner. And Jim Leonard's done such a good job that I feel like they'll be able to replace that. They were number 4 in defensive SP plus last year. They get Sanborn back, who was a major havoc guy. Safety might be a little bit of a concern, but again, I think the back end is schemed very well. They don't give up a whole lot of big plays usually. Last year was a little bit of an anomaly. I'm pretty in on this team, but I'm still going to take the field as of now.
Yeah, Jim Leonard does a really good job of mixing things up, confusing quarterbacks, creating chaos with his front seven. And it takes a lot of the weight off of that secondary because they tend to not have to cover very long because most quarterbacks are getting the ball out of there as quick as possible before some rush end comes and crushes them.
If you follow like scheme nerd Twitter, they're all over Jim Leonard, like always. Like, oh, look at this new thing he's doing. Like, look how he tricked this, this college QB in misreading the RPO here. It's pretty neat.
It's why he was very much on my list of Illinois coaching candidates when the job was open.